To chat about this, we're joined from Amman by NRC Middle East correspondent Ahmed Bayram. Ahmed, thank you for joining us. The WHO staff residence has been attacked. Its main warehouse has been destroyed. Personnel have been detained, we're hearing today as well. Are we witnessing a very dangerous new phase where even humanitarian neutrality seems to no longer offer protection anymore?
Absolutely, and this has been the case for months now. We have seen different faces of these kind of attacks against aid workers and aid organizations. Don't forget, Israel has killed the largest number of aid workers anywhere in conflict in the world, and it continues to systematically dismantle the aid system. The attack on WHO, before that the attack on WFP convoys, and before that the many incidents, including attacks on food convoys. They all speak to the same problem here, is that Israel's free reign over Gaza has, I would say, has blurred any lines that exist in conflict, have basically thrown against the wall the values of humanitarian work, the values of humanity. And this is what we see every single day, the systematic dismantling of this structure, of this aid system by Israel.
From your teams on the ground that are there, what are you hearing about the mental and also the physical toll that this escalation is really taking on humanitarian workers? We're seeing evacuations, as I mentioned, detentions, active conflict, very close in and around to where they're currently working.
John, a lot of what you guys report on as to what's happening to Palestinians in Gaza also applies for what aid workers are going through. The starvation, they are starving. The displacement, they are being displaced. These people, don't forget, they have suffered from long, protracted crisis with the rest of the population. They are sleeping in tents. Some of them have families with them, or many of them try to keep their families with them. At the same time, Israel just yesterday, for example, told aid workers, including NRC's, Norwegian Refugee Council's workers, to relocate for yet another round of relocation. Now they have to displace again. They are being displaced. At the same time, I was speaking to my colleague actually, who was telling me that now they have resorted to eating one meal, and that meal is usually before bed, so that the children don't go to bed with empty stomachs, and they know that the next meal is not going to come before the next 24 hours. Aid workers are going through the same suffering, the famine-like conditions, the displacement, and all of this, of course, amidst the most suffocating aid blockade imposed by the Israeli authorities.
Ahmed, you mentioned there displacement followed by displacement. 88% of Gaza is now under an evacuation order, or it's within a militarized zone as well. Is there any way left for aid to be delivered, or is the entire humanitarian system basically breaking down to nothing?
It's heartbreaking. I mean, you think about the tons of aid that is languishing across the border, probably a shorter commute than any one of us makes to the office. Aid is down the road from these people. The blockade has meant that they're not able to reach that, and that aid is not able to reach them for 4 months now. We see the results. You are reporting on what that means for people. The Norwegian Refugee Council and many others, of course, but we have thousands of tents waiting, laying there in the heat, laying there in the sun. Instead of being handed out to people, we have enough aid to load hundreds of trucks and send them in the next hour if Israel allowed us to do that. And with us, the entire community. Others saying that they have enough food to sustain these starving kids, reduced to bones and skin for 3 months. So there is so much, yet we are so helplessly asking for that to come in. We are making do with the very little that we have. We are running down our last stockpile of all of these items. And again, we need the international community to move and make a concrete step towards opening these gates and flooding Gaza with aid.
Ahmed, as you mentioned there, in the last 24 hours, this time yesterday, I covered that 19 children had passed away in the previous 24 hours from malnutrition. Today, that figure is up at 34. the WHO has said we need unimpeded access. We need to get through with the aid, but the destruction of the warehouse, the looting of supplies that we've seen, the situation really is dire. From your opinion, what's needed right now to prevent what is going to be and is on the brink of a total health catastrophe in Gaza?
Two simple things, really: for Israel to open the borders and for America to pressure Israel to do that, and for Israel to keep the borders open and to keep the gates open so that aid comes in. You know, hospitals are running down their medical supplies. They're saying that they only have some solutions left to treat any kind of injury or disease. I hear a lot about the infestation of pests around Gaza, of wastewater flooding the streets where people are actually sleeping, by the way, where displaced people are sleeping. They have no tents, of solid waste not being managed or collected. All of this is creating a disease that is not or probably visible, but most of the times goes untreated and of course undiagnosed, particularly amongst children. So it's simple. I mean, it's probably the most simple yet the most difficult decision now for these trucks to arrive into Gaza and support and provide relief for people on the verge of death.
And of course, we know that Arabiya, one of the last strongholds for medical care, and now that has also seen a fresh wave of attacks, a real concern for residents on the ground. Now, we've seen renewed calls for ceasefire from the WHO, from France, the UK Foreign Secretary, who's described the latest scenes as grotesque. These are all calling for sanctions to be put in place or for somebody to pay attention. Is there any traction, or do you think humanitarians are just being basically left to work in the ruins of failed diplomacy right now?
No, exactly like you put it. And you see it. I mean, beyond the superlatives and beyond the angry statements, frustration, all of that, compassion, whatever you have from these big states, why don't they just, pick up the phone and call up the Israeli Prime Minister and tell him to open the border? I mean, these countries surely have some leverage over Israel diplomatically. And, the evidence is there because we have seen it work before, right? We have seen it work with the conflicts, different conflicts. We have seen it work actually in Gaza, where we had a ceasefire, and actually it worked for a few weeks with aid supplies moving in, relieving the entire population, pulling people back from the brink. So these states, instead of tweeting about it, they should pick up the phone and make that call and make it clear that Israel is actually violating international law day and night in Gaza by targeting displaced people, by starving them to death. You look at the numbers now. 100 people apparently or reportedly killed by hunger, by starvation, 1,000 people killed around food distribution sites. These are not just numbers. These are lives that used to be. These are people that tried to make ends meet for their children and try to, get hold of that bag of flour. So decision, we know where that is. And we know that the capitals that influence these decisions have not done enough.